Right, since Peter did get my name wrong, I've got a short video. Can we play that video? So that sets the scene, huh? I take what I do very seriously, but I don't take myself very seriously. We're making potatoes great again, back in Australia. So I encourage you to actually challenge me as I'm giving this presentation as well. So if I can go over my slides now, guys. So I was actually asked by Sunette some years ago, I think it was before COVID actually, to come over and do a review, and I hate the word review, so I'm going to call it an outsider's review, looking in of the seed certification program. Peter's already mentioned my qualifications and that sort of stuff, but my main role is looking after the seed certification in Australia. We do that as a not-for-profit organisation. There's very much similarities with the South African system. One advertising point before you forget about everything else I say. The World Potato Congress is actually on in Adelaide in 2024, and we welcome you all there. It should be good fun. We may even have Donald Trump attend again. So there's just a bit of an overview on our scheme back in Australia, before I make comparisons to the South African scheme. So the seed scheme starts off with mini tubers, the same as your guys do. It's a limited generation scheme. It's up to 5 generations. In terms of the area, we're very small compared to you guys. We're about 1/10 of the size. So this is just the data I'd say for South Australia, Victoria and New South Wales. So it's around 2,000 hectares are certified annually, about 40,000 tonnes are certified annually. Our database actually tracks where crops are. This is our new database, similar to what you guys have got, but it does GPS tracking of all the fields. And then that way we can actually identify where all the fields actually are and where the growers are. We have a label similar to your label in that everything's recorded on that label as well, the class, any virus testing or any additional testing that's actually done. Since 2010, the authority also took over from the state provincial government. We took over the production of the mini tuber facility. We produce around 700,000 mini tubers at that facility at Talangi. The company's called Talangi Elite, but it's again a not-for-profit organisation owned by the industry. It's all a peat-based system that we actually use, and a lot of labour is involved in doing it. So, when Sunette asked me to do the review, I was reminded of seagull management. Has anyone ever heard of seagull management? Seagull generally flies in, shits over everything, craps on everyone, eats their lunch and then flies away. Makes a lot of noise in the process. I didn't want to do that, so I want to make sure that I'm not using seagull management. So I looked at the cricket. This is the oh no, it's not the cricket. Actually, it's actually the production between South Africa and Australia's production. And it was interesting. The chair was talking before about the increase in yield that you have here in South Africa, and largely that is attributed to different farming practices and varieties. But underpinning that is actually the seed certification system. The importance of having high health material. And that's what's actually increasing that growth. So no matter what technology actually happens into the future, as the conference goes on, talks about technology, having high health planting material is fundamental to any potato production. So, I've spoken enough. What do you think when you think about seed certification? It's not a free lunch here. I want you guys to tell me what you think about seed certification. I feel like a kangaroo in the headlights here, I tell you. Can you turn the lights up so you guys get on stage now? What do you think about when you think about seed certification? Don't make me come down there. Anyone, what do you think about seed certification? What do you think? Money well spent. That's good. What else? All right. You can't answer that question, so I want you to put your hand up if you're a seed grower. Is this the seed potato forum? Hang on. Is this the seed potato forum? Where's the seed growers? Put your hand up. Don't be shy. All right, who's a seed buyer? Who actually uses the seed? Right, there's a few of you. Who's an agronomist? Who's an advisor? Up the back, yep. Every farmer's advisor? Where's the certification officers? I know where they are. Put their hand up. All the seed certification guys. Excellent, they're there as well. All right. The importance of seed, someone said about making money. A seed potato input cost to a commercial crop are about 30% in Australia. Imagine that'd be the same here. So it's really important. It's a really important attribute to get that clean seed right. So, and what do we know about seed certification? What do we know about the attributes of seed certification? If we just look at viruses alone, we can look at various studies around the world. Here's a study that was done in the States looking at PVS and X on yield and showing a 30% decline in marketable yield. We can actually match that. Leaf roll showing 60% decline on yield. We match it again, a similar study showing potato virus X reduced yield by 20%. We can show it again with PVY in the States, again, 63%. This data is important because it actually shows the importance of the seed certification programs around the world. And as industries around the world, we need to promote this more, the benefit of it. It's a real benefit and it's an attribute to have a very good certification scheme. This is the reason why we have certification mainly for viruses, and this is showing PVY-O, PVY-NTN and X in combination. What's this one? Never seen it. That's fantastic. This is a Scottish photo. Never seen it before. Blackleg. What's this one? This one will be good because it's uniquely Australian, or it seems to be. I'll own this one. This is potato virus Y in certain varieties. This is what I call popcorning in potatoes. And this is why in 2009 we actually started looking seriously at PVY, same as what you guys are doing. Commercial quality is also relevant in seed certification. So looking at those post-harvest, the mechanical damage and all those attributes. So this is why we do seed certification. The important pillars of any seed certification program though, it sits like a bar stool. I spend a lot of time in bars. Yeah? And this is where we got it from. So there's three pillars. There's regulation, the rules. We all have the rules. We have education, awareness, and I heard about fisher scab and that sort of stuff this morning. So we have education about these occurrences. And we also have research, and research is very important to seed certification. Does anyone think what the next part of seed certification would be? It's the top bit. It's the support. So a seed certification scheme is no better than the cooperation that commercial industry gives it. And it's really important to have that strong interaction between a seed certification scheme and its end users. We need to make sure that we're actually having a seed scheme that's relevant to the seed growers, but also relevant to the end users. And when we actually set rules, and I heard a lot about the discussion this morning with great interest about all the changes that are occurring, and it's really about addressing issues about seed quality and seed management. And so we have the ability to grow seed versus the commercial users, and there's always a tug of war between the two. And seed certification is that magic thin line right between those two needs. So seed certification provides variety purity. It's an independent assessment of commercial quality, traceability of seed lots and seed crops, and it gives market access, not just domestic, but also international. Those labels are recognised, they mean something. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about the schemes, but I just thought there's some points that I could point out. So you guys have up to 8 generations, we have 5. You still have a minimum of 2 inspections, which is the same as pretty much anywhere in the world. You have field inspection samples for virus and bacterial wilt, which I'm going to talk about in detail later. Each crop has a minimum of one inspection on the post-harvest side of things. All crops are lab tested for the bacterial wilt, and all crops are subject to rotation rules. But all crops must have traceability and a known origin, so it's the important thing of the seed certification scheme. And this is pretty much standard across the world. You guys do a lot of things differently, but at the end, the principle is all the same. So in summary, the seed certification scheme, and I can say this with great confidence because I've been here a few times myself. I was here first in 2016, and it's great to be back in your country. It's a beautiful country. But you have a modern seed certification scheme, and it was great to hear that you have the inclusion of TPC, true potato seed, in your program. So that's fantastic because it's developing technology. It means your scheme is actually dynamic. It's not stuck away in a drawer and that's the rules that they were. It's actually looking at new technology and refreshing itself. It has technical advances. The testing and diagnostics that are being used that we saw at Planta Vita are up there with the world's best. It's current to the modern farming systems as well. You're looking at new varieties, new technology, you're keeping up to date. And it's comparable with all schemes around the world. You guys truly have a world-leading certification scheme. Are you proud of it? It's good to hear you clapped at that stage as well. So the processes of seed certification in terms of general is visual crop inspections, the trained inspectors, the laboratory diagnostics were mentioned before, the documentation, the traceability, the protocols and policy. And these are all tick, tick, tick for South Africa. It's fantastic to see. Your protocols are clear, relevant and up to date, as I said before. You have your trained inspectors. And I think, where are all the trained inspectors? They should have a round of applause because it's the trained inspectors that make this all happen, day in, day out. So where are they? Give them a round of applause, the trained inspectors. And it's a credit to the ongoing training and updating and refreshing that they have. The diagnostics, you cannot manage what you cannot measure. And I was very impressed to see the other day the diagnostic capabilities that you guys have for viruses, bacteria and other things, and just the volume of work. I'm actually jealous of this. In Australia, there is no way we can take 4,000, 5,000 tuber samples. It's just not possible for us. But you guys do it, and you do it to a high standard. The variety purity, the post-control inspections of variety purity. Again, I think this is the only place in the world that this actually occurs at such a standard. But it's done well and done to a high standard. So yeah, round of applause for the diagnostic guys as well. In terms of technology is always changing. We have ELISA and we have real-time PCR and these pocket lateral flow kits, but also next-gen sequencing, the next thing that's happening. But from a seed certification point of view, they have to be practical, they have to be meaningful. They have to be taken out of the hands of the researchers and made into the seed scheme, made relevant to what they're actually doing. It was mentioned before, South Africa plays a role in the United Nations Committee on Seed Potatoes. And Sunette, how long have you been going there for? You've been going there for a long time, I think. 2008. So you've been going there as long as I have, Nelly, yeah. So it's a fantastic contribution that South Africa makes. And along with Australia and New Zealand, I must say, we're a little bit different to the Northern Hemisphere, in a good way, I'll say. But we actually make a contribution at that role, learning about technology and relevances as well. And that international scheme has been going for a long time. And it's all about the things that your scheme's about as well. And so it's important to keep up with that because that allows for trade between outside the country. So you're actually understanding what is practical and what is relevant. This is something I'm really jealous of. You guys have a great connection with your government regulators and you're under your Plant Health Act. We lost this in Australia about 10 years ago. and I wish we could get it back. So if there's ever an opportunity that you lose this, fight for it. Fight hard, because it's very important to have that close connection between government and industry. The regulations around the mini tuber production, again, world standing. You have world leading facilities here in South Africa as well. It's absolutely impressive, the work that actually goes on here and the regulations that go with it. In terms of your tolerances, you have tolerances. And if we look at schemes all around the world, we'll see there's different numbers in places and that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, the tolerances achieve the same thing. It's about flushing through the disease material and ensuring end users, the few guys that put their hand up, it's making sure that they have high quality material. So your tolerances for viruses. Here's the tolerances in Europe, around the same, the 2% levels. In our scheme, it's around the 2 to 4% level, depending on what rating you actually go to. So it's all about flushing through the material. I knew I'd make someone famous here. Your database. Here it is. I made sure that we couldn't see the screen, so I made sure his head was bigger in real life. But your database, again, is world standard database, and you should be very proud of that database. It is doing a lot of work. Yes, a round of applause for your database. And that allows for the tracking and traceability. And this is, at the end of the day, what everyone just sees. Is this where it all ends? Just on the label? Does it? Does it end here? Hello? Don't make me come down there. It's not where it ends. And this is the key message I want to actually give. You've got a world-leading scheme. Be very proud of it. Your work on bacterial wilt should be celebrated by the entire industry, and I'm going to explain why. What would happen if you stopped testing for bacterial wilt? What would happen to yields? That graph, that cricket score at the front. What would happen to it? You are the wall. The seed certification is the wall. You're actually defending against this disease and any other quarantine disease you want to put in there. And it's very important to be proactive in that response rather than reactive. So I've seen crops around the world where there's 90% loss due to bacterial wilt, and it's purely for seed that's been planted that shouldn't have been planted. Build evidence of absence, not absence of evidence. So make sure you have that zero data and embrace it. It's very important to collect that data because that's what's sitting behind the label. It's really important that you continue to do that work. This is a slide I use back home. I say do it in peacetime, not in war as well. Look at what the threats are to the future. It's easier to build, look at review diagnostics and that sort of stuff when it's peacetime, but when it's wartime, we're scrambling. We're trying to find the diagnostics. We're trying to find the capacity for testing. Be proactive rather than reactive. Have some things like there's probably an emergency button here for a fire alarm. And in case of fire, push this button. That's the sort of things that you need to plan for the future. Remove some of the uncertainty from industry. What's going to happen if we found X? And the importance of maintaining that zero data. We've done that in Australia. It's not about doing all samples all the time. So we've had a threat from tomato seed coming into Australia. In 2018, about a third of all the tomato seed coming into Australia was found to have PSTBD. So we were forced to do something. Thank you. We were forced to do something about it. So we've done 10% of area planted. We do a leaf test for PSTBD. So we don't test everything. We're just doing a survey to continue that work. That's important on that leg, that bar stool, the research part of it. But it's also maintaining zero data. We match that with our knowledge of our certification officials. So we actually ask them, we train them in the visual inspection and say, have you seen ring rot, which we know doesn't occur in Australia? And you could do the same as well, and you are doing the same in a lot of aspects. All right, education time. Get the house lights up. I want to know what these diseases are. And I'm coming down. What are they? What's the one on the far side? Anyone want to guess? I'll buy anyone a beer. Come on, I'm starting to grovel. How far can I go? Well, I can go, although I was told not to go near the speakers, and if I go near the speakers, apparently your ears will burst. The one on this side, I'll give the one away. The one on the far side is blackleg. It's the old common blackleg. The one on this side is actually, what do you think? Anyone want to have a guess? All right, I'm going to have a vote. You guys are all good at voting. I've heard that all morning. Who thinks it's blackleg on this side? Put your hand up if you think it's blackleg. No? No one's going to think it's on blackleg. Well, on this side, closest to me. You going to say blackleg? Anyone else want to go against the new chair? Come on, here's your chance. Go against the chair. No? He's got a very brave chair because he's correct. It's the new species of blackleg. It's the Dictyodianthocola. It's the Parmentarii. For the inspectors, it's not slimy on the outside. It's actually dry and rots from the inside out, where the old ones rot from the outside in. It's quite devastating. This is a crop in Australia, Dictyodianthocola, at flowering stage. This is Parmentarii in seed, planted, that's been infected in the foreground. You've got the cut seed. This is an American photo of Pectobacteria parmentaria. This is a 20,000 tonne store of seed that was stored at 4 degrees. They thought it was clean, obviously not. So I'm just saying be alert, but don't be alarmed. The good thing is one of them doesn't spread. The Dictyodianthocola doesn't spread on seed cutting, it seems. This is the importance of research and staying up to date with research. But what I wanted to highlight here, if I can get the pointer to work, in the red box, we've got Dictyodianthocola. The favourable temperatures are greater than 25 degrees. In the yellow box, we've got Parmentaria, favourable more than 25 degrees. South Africa and Australia have something in common here. We're hot, and these pathogens may become established. We've been doing various surveys in Australia. We've actually eliminated Dictyodianthocola from our program, but Parmentaria becomes an issue. So I just want to conclude a few things. Beyond the label, we have quality assurance that support the trade. We have the occurrence of disease. We have evidence of absence, so we can say about area freedom. We're prepared for new incursions. We can do that. We can look at area production and we can look at the value to the entire supply chain. But I sincerely want to say this to the entire team. South Africa has a world standard. And again, you should be proud of it. The whole industry should celebrate its success, particularly directly the commercial planting, the stuff I've got to plant today, but also the indirect management, that bacterial wilt management. But also the important thing, and I think you should celebrate this even more, people make it happen. And you should be very proud of the people you have in your industry. For the few days I've been here, it's been overwhelmingly the passion from the diagnostics to the seed certification guys. That's what makes it happen. So my final slide before we go into discussion is quality is not an act, it's a habit. That's something you should always think about in terms of seed certification. You can't act it, it's a habit. So I'll leave it there, Peter. We can go to questions if you want. Go to questions? Yep, we'll go for questions. Don't applaud me, give me a question. You going to ask me a question?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Can I use your microphone?
You can use my microphone.
There we go, then everybody can hear. So I think the answer is probably obvious, this is maybe more of a comment, but as climate change progresses, I think seed certification programs are going to become more and more valuable. Do you have any evidence of perhaps countries or industries where good seed certification programs are not there and climate is having an effect with an increase in diseases and stuff like that?
I won't give any examples of countries that do good or bad, but I think you're exactly right. Climate change is going to see changes in disease profiles. And I think the most important one is like what we're seeing with blackleg. And there's some that say that PVY was the same thing. It was about changes. Climate change is one thing, but world movement is another thing as well. And it's a different pathway. So not thinking about seed coming into your country, but think of flower bulbs coming through. That's how Dictyodianthocola came into Australia as well. Once it was there, ideal conditions, the way it went. New Zealand, that's how they ended up with zebra chip. Chilies came in illegally, and that's how zebra chip started. So we are seeing pathogens evolve and change. And some of them are old ones coming back. So in the 1970s, we thought we're done with blackleg, huh? We thought tissue culture was evolution for that, and now we're back doing the same thing. Late blight is evolving. Fungicide resistance is occurring. New strains that are evolving every season. And as climate change, we're getting wetter and drier. We're getting more extremes, so we're getting more of these epidemics building. The one thing I can say about these things, unlike COVID, COVID was someone stuffing around with a bat in a bowl, huh? And who knew that was ever going to happen? A bat in a bowl, and we ended up with COVID. But with these things, we do know they're going to happen, so we can be prepared for them. We can learn from other countries that are dealing with these diseases and actually be a bit better prepared. All right, other questions? You can even use my microphone. No questions. Are you all stunned that you have an international program? Are you all stunned about that, are you? Any of the seed certification officers got a question? Come on. You guys took me shooting. Yep, there's a question here in the middle. Yeah, so the question is about the risk of using uncertified seed and why people take that risk. I don't know the answer to that. To me, there's two levels of risk. There's true farm-safe seed, where you have seed that's actually purchased from certified seed, maybe retained on farm and multiplied up, might be physiological age or something like that that they have to deal with. And then you have true uncertified seed. Well, gee whiz, when was it last certified? It's that later category that actually offers greater risk. And the same as Australia as in South Africa, we're a voluntary scheme. There's no mandate of what you can plant. So it's a real challenge. And I think that as margins get tighter and tighter, I think it's just a risk that you can't have. And as an industry, or as your industry, you need to promote that standard. It's not good enough, because it brings everyone undone.
So Nigel, what do you see is your biggest threat in terms of diseases in Australia?
Biggest threat for us at the moment is zebra chip, because the psyllid has actually arrived in Western Australia. Apparently it wiped its feet, spat out the bacteria, but I think it's a matter of when. Yep, so it's in process. And the other one is this Parmentera. That's why I wanted to show those slides. So I just wanted to don't scare everyone, but just keep an eye on that. It's something that's evolving. The United States said they had a PVY problem until Dickia came along. Then they didn't have a PVY problem anymore. Now they don't have a Dickia problem because they've managed to control it by having hygiene at cutting. So now what they're seeing is that Parmentera is occurring an issue for them as well. Any other questions? I thought South Africans were a loud, rowdy bunch. I always see them in the rugby, that they're very loud and aggressive. Do you want me to start talking about the Wallabies or something like that, or how good they are? How good we are at the cricket? Or using sandpaper at the cricket? Yes, you're all right. Yes, go.
Thanks for the wonderful presentation. I mean, nobody's in this field of seed production. How is organic influence the quality of the seed? When we go to the shop, they want organic, and what's the view there? We said climate change has affected it, and the pursuit of organic products, how has that affected the whole thing?
Well, I think for the first part, seed certification around the world is probably one of the most successful examples of cultural management for plant diseases around the world. So it lends itself to organic production. Having said that, as we get more and more pressures from things like PVY and these other diseases, it becomes more important on what we can use to suppress those. But what we do know is planting disease seed actually just exacerbates the problem. So having clean seed is a primary part of that cultural management, that IPM strategy, to suppress disease. In terms of organics, I'm not too sure that I can think of many places in the world that have an entirely organic seed certification scheme. So it'd be a challenge, but the regulations should be the same. There should be no allowance to actually allow for greater disease tolerance in an organic system, because it may put the rest of the industry at risk. Anyone else got a question? Now that lights are up there, I can see everyone. What about the people at the back? You guys all sat at the back for a reason. Come on, get into it. What's the cricket score? There we go, we've got one right at the back.
I just want to know, what's your opinion about Nick White?
No comment. I'll say David Pocock now is one of our senators in Parliament though too, so he'll scrum it down with the Prime Minister at some stage, I dare say. Any other questions? Come on. Yep, over here. Oop. GMOs on potatoes. What is my personal position or what is the country's position? Country's one. We don't have any GMOs at the moment. So there's no GMOs because no one wants DNA in their food.
Why not?
Because no one wants DNA in their food. Just think about that for a minute.
Okay, thank you.
No, there's all DNA in every food. So no one wants the Frankenstein foods. But I think it's changing. It was mentioned this morning about the need to feed the world. How are we going to do that? We need to invest in technology that actually helps us manage pests and diseases more betterly, if that's such a word. But also we need to look at human health traits as well. So the low acrylamide stuff that's happening in the States for cancer and all that sort of stuff should be ways that we're actually looking at. Shouldn't be dismissed as a technology. And the other thing is the speed that the technology is happening at the moment as well. The speed of technology where we're doing gene editing, so it's not a true GMO, we're only actually changing little bits of the sequence, is technology that in some countries is not even seen as a GMO. So we're going to see a real change, I think, in how that works. And I think it'll be really interesting what the role TP, the true potato seed, plays in that as well, because it's a way of actually evolving genetics at a higher rate. And a lot of breeding now is using genetic markers, no GMOs, but they're actually accelerating their breeding because they can look for pieces of DNA that are relevant to a disease resistance, might be nematode resistance. And new varieties can screen the numbers faster using this technology. So it means they're faster to market. Any other questions? Yep, quick one.
You mentioned obviously you don't have the labour in Australia.
Yes.
How many tubers do you pull out of a certified block? And
So for every 5 tonnes, we pull out 100 tubers. So if we have a 40-tonne lot that's presented, we'll do 800 tubers. That's what our inspectors pull out.
okay.
So it's similar to what you guys are doing.
So, but you said obviously the labour, and we have a lot of labour.
Yep. So we still have that challenge with our certification officers. We have 7 certification officers covering that 2,000 hectares, mostly because it's spread out in distance. So it's similar to South Africa. We don't have the labour to pull 4,000 tuber samples and that sort of stuff. The cost of the laboratory testing alone would kill us.
Yeah. And you still feel you get as good a level of testing?
We compromise. So with the PVY testing, we do a 200 leaf sample per 5 hectares. It's not the perfect system, but it actually given us suppression. If the guys could put up my slide, the last 2 slides, I can actually show that. We'll just go to the last slide. We didn't prepare this at all. I had a graph prepared. This is our PVY suppression. In 2009, this is when I first started. Great thing to hire a plant pathologist to run a seed scheme. Brilliant. Well, so the industry thought at the time. And we had record rejections. This line is actually showing the rejection from PVY. We implemented immediate leaf testing on the 200 leaf sample, and we're enjoying a rejection rate of less than 0.5%. So it's not scientifically, we could always do more, but we have to do what's affordable. So as I said before, the technology has to be there, but it has to be practical and relevant to your industry. How are we going, Peter? We've got more questions, or, are they just warming up, or? I'm happy to take questions for any of the breaks, but I, again, just like to thank Willie and Sinette for the invitation. It's been fantastic, and really do celebrate your seed scheme. Both the commercial industry, but also the seed industry should be very proud. Thank you.